there are a lot of favorable tax incentives in the Caribbean. And I'll just give you an example from my own experience. So when I ran my hedge fund, I opened up an offshore bank account for my international investors in the British Virgin Islands. Now, the way it works from a tax perspective is there are two main areas in the Caribbean where people usually set up offshore hubs. The first one is the Cayman Islands, and the second one is BVI, British Virgin Islands. British Virgin Islands is not as, I guess, prestigious as Cayman's, and also is a lot cheaper. But what happens is this: when you set up an offshore bank account or an offshore entity for a company, what happens is in the Caymans and the BVI, you hire lawyers there, and they set up a board of directors, usually 5 or 6 people that live in those islands. And the reason that you set up an offshore account, if you have an investment firm, is because a lot of people don't want to pay U.S. taxes. And so a lot of U.S.-based hedge funds, venture capital firms, and private equity firms have 2 accounts where you can invest in. One is domestic in the United States, where they will pay U.S. taxes, and the other is offshore in the British Virgin Islands or Cayman Islands. And there's other islands too, like Sark, for example, close to England. Now, it's never, ever the person's duty that set up these accounts to give tax advice. We just want to provide the flexibility for everybody to be able to invest onshore or offshore. And if you have follow-up questions on that, please let me know. But I've done a lot of offshore banking work as well in Barbados, where I set up an offshore bank when I worked at Accenture for CIBC Cobsco. CIBC Cobsco is CIBC Offshore Banking Services Corporation. Happy to go into much more detail on that. Bottom line is that my customers only paid 1% tax withholding when they repatriated the profits back to Canada.